and welcome to our last week of massed court sessions. So I look forward to the new grand reopening next week. Let me ask if there's any counsel either in the courtroom or remotely that has a conflicting court appearance that would like to be called early. Anyone fall into that category? Mr. Lopez?
Yes, me. I have court here in Lee County.
Okay. And let's turn to this is calendar call. I believe you have the Coleman case, Mr. Lopez?
Yes, I do.
All right. Does that remain ready to be called for trial?
Yes, as the court knows, there was some issues last time. I spoke with Mr. Coleman. We resolved our issues, so we're ready to move forward.
Very well. This is 18 CF 964. Ms. Brown for the state.
Good morning.
State comments?
Your Honor, as we indicated at pretrial conference, due to a witness issue, we will need this to go second week, which I believe due to the holiday would begin July 6th. So we are ready to proceed July 6th. However, I would note, Your Honor, I am on the homicide case with Your Honor that I know we haven't addressed yet, but I do anticipate going. I don't know if Mr. Lopez would be amenable to some sort of status perhaps the week prior, the week of the 28th, because obviously if I'm in a homicide trial, this case will not be able to be tried this cycle. And I'd like to have that addressed rather than wait till what would otherwise be the morning of trial to do so.
Well, to begin with, I think this is a 3 to 4 day case was estimated.
Yes, I believe 3 days would be appropriate based on my review of the charges and the fact that we will be outside of COVID protocols when this case is tried.
And Mr. Lopez, you don't believe it would exceed 4 days?
I do not.
And Ms. Fuentes, we do have 4 days that second week, correct?
Let me double check.
I believe we do, Your Honor. I am scheduled to be out of the office on Friday the 9th, but I think starting this on the 6th will allow us to try it in time and allow me to keep my personal plans.
There are 4 days available, yes.
So we will set this then to commence on what date, Ms. Fuentes, the second week, first day?
It would start July 6th, but for clerk purposes, we need it to be called or set for June 28th, the start of trial.
So in terms of the request to check on the progress of any other trials and whether it would impact the second week, were you suggesting later in the first week, Ms. Brown, where Mr. Lopez would be available remotely and we would just do a status check?
That would be fine. We can leave it on for Monday, but as the court knows, sometimes things happen. And we wouldn't want Mr. Lopez to wait all day on Monday to ensure that we actually were proceeding on the homicide.
Right. I'm fine with the status. If we are able to make it remote, then it wouldn't conflict with anything else I would have.
So we would be looking at, and Ms. Fuentes, we're starting this the second week. So
Right.
When are you suggesting it be called?
All cases are going to be set for June 28th to be called in as an initial status. That way we have one trial docket. If we start separating them, then there will be cases unaccounted for. So we need all cases to be set June 28th, and then from there they will be reset.
All right, so what I would do is if you'll just make a note that we'll call them in like all the others on the 28th, but then this one we can check further later in the week, as suggested by Ms. Brown, to make sure it would start the second week. And we'll set that on that Monday.
Thank you. That sounds good.
Anything else, Mr. Lopez?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other counsel either in the courtroom? Mr. Lucarelli?
Good morning.
Greetings.
I spoke to Ms. Brown last week, was trying to resolve this case. Can we set this for, maybe established on the same day and we can set on that second week trial?
Which case are we talking
I'm
about?
sorry, it's a Manalich, 19 CF.
All right, let me turn to that.
What case is this, Your Honor?
This
It's
is-
going to be Hippolyte, I believe, 192316 CF.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. So both sides, if not resolved, will be ready to proceed to trial.
Yeah, put on that second week, getting back in the county.
Okay, the request is to go forward the second week, which probably is good for the state because it's the same situation for you, Ms. Brown.
Yes, Your Honor, and that would be fine. Mr. Lucarelli and I are working on a resolution, and I'll be in communications with him. If we do not resolve it, Mr. Lucarelli did list some additional witnesses. I'll need to speak to him about what those witnesses would testify to determine whether or not I need to set a deposition and then ask for a continuance. But at this point, Your Honor, I request that we leave it on for Monday, the 28th, to assess where we are at. But if we end up going to trial this cycle, I have no objection to the second week.
Anything else?
No.
All right, so it remains set for trial to commence on the second week, which you'll note that, Ms. Fuentes, but
Correct.
being called on the first Monday, is that correct?
Correct. June 28th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any other counsel that needs to be called earlier? Mr. Cox?
Morning, Tim Cox on behalf
Morning.
of David Billy Jr. Your Honor, we are still ready to file Billy is in custody for his
All right, so Mr. Cox is announcing ready. Will your co-counsel also be trying the case? All right. And we have two cases, 17 CF 1381, as well as 20 CF 1484. Of the two cases, obviously the trafficking case is the more serious, the 1381.
I've had to bring my house, the case to call the
Very well. For the state, Mr. Frazier, or Mr. Ashby, are you covering?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, is the state announcing ready?
Your Honor, in my discussions with Mr. Frazier, there appeared to have been, I believe there's an issue with retained counsel with the basically pending situation with the bar currently, as well as the state, as last time mentioned, we did have one of our witnesses that was scheduled to be out on leave during the trial cycle.
Now, what did we address on that previously? Was that the issue with the state attorney's calendaring system, or how did that arise and we got this far without being aware of that?
One moment, Your Honor.
The defense does wish to go forward, is that correct, Mr. Conley? And there's no impediment for counsel to try the case at this point?
Okay. I thought that the previous hearing, this is one case, a certain trial, step one, compared to the jury position of the defendant.
Obviously, it is a shifting landscape, especially with the pandemic, Mr. Cox, but how many days for this trial? Estimating 4 days. Mr. Ashby, are you anything you can refresh the court about on this witness issue?
Yes, Your Honor. From what I'm seeing, it appears to, I don't know if this was one of those where we were using the different system or not, but it does show that one of our witnesses, the arresting officer, is out for the trial cycle.
When was that leave request or passed on to the state?
Not positive, Your Honor. Give me one moment, I can double check here.
I mean, is this the witness's issue, or was this the state's calendaring system that underwent some change?
That I'm not positive on, Your Honor.
Well, at this point, Mr. Billy's in custody. We've had this set for quite a long time, and I'm reluctant to continue it. And unfortunately, Mr. Frazier is not here to address it firsthand. So I'm going to leave it set for trial. The priorities will have to be sorted out with the other cases. If this is a critical witness for the state, I will require that Mr. Frazier file a motion outlining the scenario.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defense can be heard on that, and we'll address that prior to the start of the trial cycle.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it remains as set. Ms. Fuentes, date and time?
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Now, however, if the state does file a motion, Mr. Cox, I'll obviously have a hearing on that. You can appear remotely if you wish.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, the second case, the 20 CF 1484, the state does not have any witness conflicts. So if we get to that point, the state can try that case.
Well, that may be an alternative, but in the interest of the judicial economy, I think we want to go forward on a more serious case. But again, I'm willing to address it by motion if that's continues to be a problem.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Cox, anything else?
That's all I have.
Yes, have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other counsel that has a conflict that prefers to be heard? I believe on the Dundas case, if I recall
Yes,
correctly.
Your Honor, I just
Okay.
he's been out of the office. I don't think he was super well. Days. Just asking if this could be further this afternoon.
We can, or Mr. Pica could appear remotely, but he may not be comfortable doing that. Were you under the impression this would be a plea this morning, counsel?
I think it will be, and that's why I asked if they will move it on.
Is
One matter that's fluid regarding cooperation.
okay. Is there? Do you know if anyone from statewide prosecutor was going to be attending this morning, Mr. Roth?
Mr. Pica was intending to get over here, but he wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
And I could wait for him to you're on.
And we can. You're over here, obviously, from the other coast, and I do wish to address it today, especially if it's going to resolve. Let me have my office reach out to Mr. Pica's office, or unless have you been in communication with him?
I was just on the phone with him, so I
Okay.
called him.
Let me recall it and see if Mr. Pica could appear remotely. I would like to discuss it with him.
Judge, do you mind if I jump on a Zoom hearing I have?
No, go ahead if you want to do that outside or wherever you wish and come back then. No problem. Any other counsel, either present or by remote connection that has conflicting court appearance needs to be called earlier? Anyone fall in that category? All right. Mr. Russo or Mr. Carr?
Good morning, Governor Russo.
Mr. Rogers? Good morning, Mr. Rogers. Can you come up here to the podium and join your counsel? A moment.
Page 43.
Thank you. 1 second. Yes, 20 CF 1354. What is the status? All right, Mr. Ashby, do you wish to address the plea now?
Your Honor, we'll come down to the courtroom and address it in person.
Do you wish me to recall it, or
Yes, please.
how many other matters do you have on the trial call?
On the trial call, Your Honor, I believe we have Losner Jean Baptiste, as well as Grady Morris, Felix Nelson, and Joshua Notriani.
Okay. Let me recall it in just a few moments, Mr. Russo, and let me go ahead and address your cases, Mr. Ashby, and then we can get you down here and we can take care of the plea.
Yes, Your Honor.
So tell me the ones you have, and then that'll free you up to come down and we'll take care of Rogers.
Yes, Your Honor. First I have is Donald Lee Hanks, 20 CF 401.
The last again,
Hanks, Hanks.
1 moment. Let me see who's opposing counsel on that.
Your Honor, Abdul Khalil on behalf of Mr. Hanks.
Morning, Mr. Khalil.
Good morning, Your Honor. We've submitted an order to your office to have him transported here. We can just leave it remains as said.
So you anticipate he will be transported for the trial then?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Any update on plea negotiations?
Your Honor, we intend on setting this for a plea to the bench. We have exhausted all negotiations.
So will this be a jury trial?
I don't anticipate so, no, Your Honor.
All right. Well, let's have it. Ms. Fuentes, do we have a separate date for this type of event?
I don't have that, Your Honor.
So let's leave it as set then. And on that Monday, if it's still a plea to the bench, we can address it either that week or some other occasion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may. This case is currently set on July 6th, but we need it to be moved to June 28th. for that Monday.
What was it set for on July 6th?
For trial, it was just to begin the second week. But we need it to be on a Monday, June 28th at 9 a.m.
Have you confirmed with the defendant that he is not proceeding to jury trial, Mr. Khalil?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does the state agree to set it for a plea to the bench?
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine. We can call it. Yes,
Let me check with Melissa if we can assign it a date now. All right, apparently she's absent.
I'm sending her a text.
All right. Let me recall it, and because I would like to go ahead and set it and not have it clutter the jury trial docket if in fact it's going to be a plea to the bench. So I'll recall that matter. What else do you have, Mr. Ashby?
next I have is Losner Jean Baptiste, 18 CF 29. Mr. Nagel.
All right. And Mr. Nagel is remotely connected.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
Any greetings, any changes?
For the moment, no, Judge. Mr. Ashby and I are going to be talking this week about the possibility of a resolution. There is a chance that we will get to a resolution. We've just not had a chance to actually sit down and talk about the matters in the last couple of days. But we are going to try this week. But for now, we should just leave it as it's scheduled.
Ms. Fuentes, for some reason, I don't seem to show this in my materials.
Page 29,
What name is it under?
Jean Baptiste with a J.
It's under Baptiste. All right, 18 CF 29. This will require an interpreter, Mr. Nagel.
Yes, Judge. He does speak quite a bit of English, but I do have some concerns about certain complex concepts. So for an abundance of caution, we would use a Creole interpreter.
Arrangements will be made.
Yes, Judge, of course.
Length of trial not to exceed 3 days.
No. I couldn't imagine how it could.
That, Ms. Fuentes,
I'm sorry,
remains as set.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Did you have an additional case, Mr. Ashby?
Yes, Your Honor. I had Grady Connor Morris, 19 CF 353 with Mr. Khalil.
And Your Honor, if you recall, this was the motion to suppress where he was not available. I have gotten in contact with him. He is in the hospital. We're working on getting medical documentation. I would propose to the court to leave as remain as set.
So I will require medical verification. Otherwise, it remains as set with length of trial not to exceed 3 days. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any state comments?
That's correct, Your Honor. No objection to leaving it as set.
So you'll work on the medical verification, Mr. Khalil?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well, thank you. Any others, Mr. Ashby?
I have a Felix Nelson, 19 CF 1955 with Mr. Zonas.
All right, hello, Mr.
James Zonas on behalf of Felix Nelson.
Any changes? Mr. Nelson present. Hello, Mr. Nelson.
I do have a rape trial set on July 6th with Judge Foster as well. That is unlikely to resolve, but we can probably work around it and maybe do them both that week.
So you're requesting the second week?
Second week, I think Mr. Ashby requested.
State comments?
Yes, Your Honor. The state did request the second week as we did have a witness out the first week. State's fine as long as counsel is prepared.
Okay, but the state is requesting the second week, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr.
Yes,
Nelson?
sir. We are requesting the second week.
Yes, I have not been represented by my attorney to the best of my ability. I am being forced to have representation in this court case. I will be back in court for ineffective assistance of counsel on my person today. I have documents to be submitted I have records confirming all payments made to Judge Jones by myself. I also have records confirming, I also have records from a correspondence between myself and James Jones dating back to January 28, 2020, where James Jones requested $700 from me for that. And subpoena witnesses. I have paid James for the following days, and have yet nothing has been done.
Excuse me for interrupting, Mr. Nelson. I do want to hear what you have to say, but I just have a question here. Mr. Rizonis is privately retained by you, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
He's not court appointed, is that correct?
Yes,
And are you seeking to substitute counsel?
yes.
Okay. Have you made any attempt to do so to the
Yes,
court?
a few different lawyers.
Okay.
But Mr. Jones is claiming that he doesn't owe me money, and he's claiming that I only gave him $750 for deposition, and that's all he's going to do that. So I need the money for funding counsel, because I've been funding witnesses, I've been doing everything, and there's years, not one of them existed yet. About extra money, he said we put that's when she doesn't show up for 2 months, the case get thrown out. This is 2 years ago. I want to pay them, nothing's been done. No vessels, no witnesses we've been seeing. I have plenty of witnesses.
Mr. Bonus, are you going to continue to represent Mr. Nelson?
Honor, if he's starting as, I guess, what do we call it, oleate? I think he's representing himself at this point, but whatever he wants to do. I haven't been discharged, so I have the responsibility of the file.
Well, at this point, Mr. Zonis appears to be privately retained. He has not moved to withdraw. I understand your concerns, Mr. Nelson. You need to speak to Mr. Zonis as to whether or not he is to continue to be your lawyer. If he is not, Mr. Zonis needs to file a motion to withdraw, which I would consider, and then determine if the case should be remain as set or be continued to a further date if we're going to get new private counsel. Is your goal to get new private counsel or to have court-appointed counsel? Do you have the ability to hire private counsel?
Yes, that's why I wanted the money back.
Well, Mr. Zonis, I'm going to leave the matter set. However, it will be defense counsel's responsibility to file a motion if, after speaking with Mr. Nelson, you're unable to resolve the differences and he intends to substitute private counsel. But until I have that motion before me, we need to respect. So please make sure you follow up with Mr. Nelson so that I can address that in advance. I will set it for the second week trial cycle. That will give the parties a little more time to bring a motion if that's what is requested here. So Ms. Quintus will come as noted on the 28th for trial. However, it will not be started until the second week. In the meantime, you'll need to speak to Mr. Nelson and decide if you're going to represent him or not.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Nelson, that's what's going to happen. Make sure you follow up with Mr. Zonis so that I can address it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
And my last case, Your Honor, is Joshua Joseph Notriani, 20 CF 881, with Mr. Verderamo.
Verderamo present. Status? Remain as set. Any state issues?
No, Your Honor.
Length of trial still estimated 3 days.
Yes, Your Honor.
Beginning on the first week.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Fuentes?
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Mr. Ashby, does that free you up to come down?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll be there shortly.
Come down, then we can address Rogers. Mr. Carr, did you say there was a second case you had? Okay. All right. So Mr. Ashby should be down shortly, and then we'll get you on your way. Very good. All right. Let me address the bench, please.
Judge Manalich's office.
Hello, Melissa. There is a case that is announcing it's going to be a plea to the bench, not a jury trial. And that's with Mr. Khalil and Mr. Ashby. Mr. Khalil, how many days did you estimate on that?
Just 1 day, Your Honor. Maybe 2 hours should be sufficient.
Okay. So not to exceed 3. I'll have to wait for Mr. Ashby to arrive and I'll ask him that. So Melissa, I'll call you back as soon as Mr. Ashby, he went from remote to being in person.
Okay.
All right, any other council, remote or in person, that has a conflicting appearance that needs to be called earlier? Anyone fall into that category? If not, I'll take them in order, as I have them at least. I'm showing first Armando Alvarez, 19 CF 2122, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Wilson for the state.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I believe both are connected. What's the status?
Well, I think the state, I mean, we're at this moment, we're ready to go. We are talking negotiations still, but we could be ready for trial. However, I believe the state may have a concern at this moment.
Ms. Wilson, are you able to hear us?
Yes, Your Honor. That is correct. We have the issue that I brought up at the pretrial conference, and the fact that our victim is homeless. He is very cooperative. We did finally get to do the deposition once we located him. However, he is in a program. I did spend the last 3 business days since the pretrial conference trying to get the public defender on his Sarasota case, who's been our contact, to respond to me to find out, can he leave the program? And I've had no luck in being able to get a response from her. I can tell the court that the victim has been, when he's able to have a phone, he quite often calls our office. And he has not called our office since he's been in the program. So I'm going to assume at this point that he's not able to call out of the program. And if he can't call out, he would not be able to leave the program either. So we're still asking for a continuance. We can go as early as August, which is only a couple more months out. I know that's packed, but I got August and September and November 15th through the 18th available.
What assurance would the court have that he would be any more available then than he is now?
Your Honor, it would give me more time for us to get somebody to try and get contact through to him, find out what the name of the program is at the very least, and get contact with him. And because I'm sure that if we can have contact with him and he is able to leave, then he would be here, because he has, I think even Mr. Nagel knows that the victim is cooperative through the deposition.
Mr. Nagel, what is the history? Have you had difficulty being able to depose this witness?
Judge, we spent the better part of a year and a half chasing down addresses that the state provided. Every time they would get a new address, by the time the subpoenas went out a week later, he was gone. He was transitory for the greater part of that year and a half. We only actually found him because he unfortunately got himself arrested and had charges pending in Pinellas, which led us to finding him in this program.
That election, I think the court has had an abundant level of patience with this, and that has now been exhausted. So the motion to continue is denied, and the case will proceed to trial as scheduled. However, the state may file a motion if it can show that despite due diligence, the witness for medical or other treatment reasons is truly unavailable, but in a manner that assures he could appear at a later date, that I will require a motion to be filed and heard on that. I don't think that the court should be held back at this point any further. It already has. It's given plenty of opportunities for this case to be prepared. So, in the absence of a motion in advance, the case will be called for trial. We may or may not reach it. Ms. Fuentes, the date?
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ashby is here. And let me see if I can address that matter. Also, we have the bench still connected.
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. Hello, Mr. Ashby. Let me address the bench plea real quick and then the Rogers case.
Judge Manalich office.
Melissa, calling you on the plea to the bench that we need to set separately from the jury trial docket. 20 CF 401. That's Donald Hanks. Mr. Ashby, we're estimating 2 to 3 hours for that.
Your Honor, I think it would only be 2 hours.
Okay.
potentially more than that.
So an abundance of caution, 2 hours. Melissa, any suggestion as to where we set this in July?
Yes, well, since it doesn't get continued from the trial, 2-week trial period, shouldn't it be scheduled for Monday, June 28th to appear and then get a date certain during that week, 2-week trial period?
Well, I could do that, but on the assurance that it is going to be a pleaded bench, the client has already approved that. I don't want to really clutter the jury trial docket, and we can just give it an earlier date so everybody can prepare for that. I mean, a later date.
Okay, Friday, July 9th at 9 o'clock.
Is both sides available then? Will the defendant be transported by then?
Yes, Your Honor. He should arrive July 6th.
It has witness availability?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, it is set. Thank you. And then Rogers is the next case. Mr. Russo and or Mr. Carr for the defendant. Mr. Rogers in person.
Okay, I'm going to take it off.
All others are canceled, yes. All right. Morning, counsel. Mr. Rogers. And this is 20 CF 1354. Is there an agreed plea?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
The terms of the negotiated resolution are count 1, possession of controlled substance, 18 months probation, substance abuse evaluation, follow recommendations, random testing, court costs, cost of prosecution, and cost of investigation of $375 on Fire and Sheriff's Office. And that's a withhold adjudication on count 1. On count 2, withhold adjudication, 18 months probation, substance abuse evaluation, follow recommendations, random testing, composite court costs. And count 3, that'll be withhold adjudication, 12 months probation, substance abuse evaluation, follow recommendations, random testing, and composite costs. All the probation was confirmed on all counts, and we discussed with the prosecutor that the substance abuse evaluation can be done by the defendant's doctor, Dr. Omar Ricci, that's REIC, psychiatrist, has gone over the score sheet with the defendant, and we have no objection to the score sheet.
Anything clarified by the state?
No, Your Honor, that would be all.
All right. Mr. Rogers, any questions about the plea agreement?
No, Your Honor.
Do you believe this is in your best interest? Thank you. Please raise your right hand and be sworn.
Swear or affirm that the testimony that you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. May I lower your hand? Please answer the state's question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, can you please state your name and date of birth? Jonathan Rogers, 11/21/1990. What are the last 4 digits of the social security number? 3375. Have you ever been known by any names or aliases? No. Where were you born? Illinois. How far did you go to school? What was that? How far did you go to school? 13th degree. Can you read, write, and understand your English language? Are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol? Are you taking any medication? Are you taking that medication as prescribed? Are you taking that medication today? Does that medication affect your ability to understand your speech? Are you suffering from any mental condition or disorder? You understand why we're here today? Sir, in 20 CF 1354, you've been charged with 3 counts of information for following charges. Count 1, possession of a controlled substance, considered to be felony, punishable by 5 years in the Department of Correction. That charge, how do you conclude? Guilty, not guilty, no contest. No contest. At the count 2, possession of a controlled substance, considered to be felony, punishable by 5 years in the Department of Correction. For that charge, how do you conclude? Guilty, not guilty, no contest. And at the count 3, possession of use of drug paraphernalia, a person who admits to be responsible for 1 year in the Department of Jail. For that charge, how do you conclude? Guilty, not guilty, no contest. So do you understand that a maximum sentence is before the state and the charge, if there's one consecutive, that is one after the other, will be 11 years in the Department of Correction. You understand that by entering this plea, you're waiving your right for a trial by jury? You understand you're also waiving the following rights. Right now, the jury determines your guilt or innocence. Right to see, hear the statement, to testify, have or question. Right to subpoena, call your own witnesses, submit evidence on your behalf. Right to testify in your own defense or to remain silent. And your right to say prove the charges against you beyond the reasonable doubt. You understand, sir, that you will always right by entering this plea today. Counsel, reserve any matters for appeal? No, sir. Mr. Rogers, do you understand you're giving your right to appeal all grounds except whether this court can impose this sentence?
So I'm showing you your score sheet, I got you to review this with your attorney. Holding in my hand, it shows the score total sentence points of 18.6. Whether it was permissible purpose after the month of 0. Do you agree that this score sheet is accurate? Also holding in a plea of guilty and no consequence charge, I agree this one, right? That. But your signature, that was that signature. Your signature tells me that you read and understood right person on please on did you in fact read and understand right person. Any questions for your attorney at this time? Sir, otherwise contained in the plea example that we just discussed on the record, has anyone promised anything in exchange for this plea? Are you entering this plea of your own free will? Are you being forced or threatened by anyone? Are you pleading to give your options? Do you believe that this plea is in your own best interest? Do you understand that there is no guarantee you will be able to earn the probation right? Also, you know, understand that part of the negotiated resolution is that we're considering a withhold adjudication for probation. Understand that at this time you're not going to be limited to trial court. You understand how so that you violate your probation, you can guilty of that violation. You also be adjudicated guilty of the underlying offense as well. You understand that? At that time, so you wouldn't be comfortable with the trial. You also understand that in the nature of these charges, if you're adjudicated guilty, you're privileged to drive with you, and you lose your privilege to drive for a period of 6 months. Understanding all that, you should look at it. Are you satisfied the advice and counsel of your attorney? That you've done everything you've asked and answered all the questions? Are you on the world of discussion this case with your attorney? We have sufficient time to consider the offer, the charges, whether you want to accept the state offer or with a trial with your attorney. You need any more time to speak to your attorney? So I'm aware of any physical evidence that can be tested for DNA or exonerated. Do you understand as a result of this plea, no physical evidence will be tested for DNA? You understand that if you're not a U.S. citizen, you may be subjected to removal or deportation as a result of this plea. You understand that if you're deported as a result of this case, it will not be a basis to withdraw this plea. You need any additional time to discuss this with your attorney. Sir, if this offense to which you're pleading is a sexually violent offense or a sexually motivated offense, or if you've been proved convicted of such an offense, this plea may subject you to involuntary civil commitment as a sexually violent charge upon which you sentence. You understand this warrant, sir? Counsel, do you still with the fact of basic offense for the plea? Yes, sir.
Any additional defense requests?
You would just ask that the doctor's name be written with that.
And what is the name of the doctor?
R-E-I.
And who are his other co-defendants? Darrell Wiley has other cases, Judge, with Mr. Gardner. I know that, but who are the other co-defendants?
Based on the plea agreement, the plea colloquy, the plea of no contest, and the arrest affidavit facts in support thereof, the court accepts the plea agreement and will impose the terms as agreed, withhold adjudication all counts, concurrent 18 months regular supervision all counts, reporting today, Mr. Russo.
Yes, sir.
Does there need to transfer supervision anywhere?
No, sir.
Substance abuse evaluation follow recommendation may be done by Dr. Ricci. Random testing, court costs mandatory.
400.
Prosecution 100, investigative 375. Any objection or request for hearing on any monetary amounts?
No, sir.
Any other terms to be addressed for either side?
No, sir.
So, Mr. Rogers, this is a good result for you based on your attorney's efforts and the fairness of the state. The withhold of adjudication is very important. Make sure you follow your supervision, otherwise you could lose that benefit. Thank you for resolving your case. Please step over here to the prince. Mr. Russo, any other cases? I know you have a 10 o'clock. All right, very well.
Thank you.
Any other counsel? Let me ask this. We do have 2 interpreters present. Does any counsel have a case involving interpreters that I need to call?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Vitale.
Just one, Your Honor, Mr. Vitale, on behalf of Vladimir Michelle.
And what's the last name?
Michelle?
All right. Is he in custody?
I'm aware of it.
All right. Mr. Michelle is 19 CF 1987. Ms. Brown for the state.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
Ready? And were we expecting Mr. Michelle to appear?
I did contact his sponsor last week to advise that they had court this morning.
Okay. Ms. Brown, what's that?
He is not in custody.
Okay, Officer Harrison says he is not in the jail list. What's the state?
And Your Honor, I apologize. It's been a little bit since I did this. Is calendar call a mandatory appearance for defendants?
As far as I recall, defense counsel.
I thought so. Then, Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to be requesting a bench warrant. I know that Mr. Vitale had indicated at the pretrial conference that he had not had contact with Mr. Michel in quite some time. And clearly, Mr. Michel is not in court. So based upon that, Your Honor, I'm going to be requesting a bench warrant. And because this is a calendar call, I would request no bond.
Yeah, I would modify my statement only to the extent that I believe that if I have granted requests to waive the appearance of the defendant, obviously that's different.
Yes, Your Honor.
Vitale?
I did not listen to, obtain permission to waive that appearance and calendar call.
All right. Any response in regard to the bench warrant request?
I just did not set it no bond.
Has he appeared in this case previously?
Well, that's why I'm here, because he hasn't appeared before the court at times, and the court may not remember this, but I'd asked to get the phone number. I appeared by Zoom for maybe a case manager pre-trial, and I was unable to get his phone number.
Now, the concern here is I see a note from our excellent historian, Ms. Fuentes, who indicates that back as early as September of 2020, you were indicating difficulties contacting the defendant. Has he appeared since that time? Or at any time?
He listed appearance, and then he appeared after. Which one it was, I cannot tell you. But I know that he appeared for a couple of court dates. But of course, I wasn't there, so that really helps.
Well, I am concerned. There does appear to be a history of non-participation. At this point, the state warrant request for warrant is granted. What's the state's argument for no bond versus a increase of monetary bond?
Well, Your Honor, we are at calendar call. We are on the eve of a trial cycle set to begin in 2 weeks. In addition, as the court indicated, based on Ms. Fuentes' notes and Mr. Vitale's comments at the last court appearance, Mr. Michel hasn't appeared for quite some time, and the state has some concerns in allowing Mr. Michel to have a bond once he's picked up on Your Honor's bench warrant.
What is the previous bond set at?
I believe the docket indicates it's $15,000, Your Honor. He's charged with aggravated battery on a pregnant victim, which is a second-degree felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison.
State is not aware of any violations of bond conditions?
I am not aware of any violations of bond conditions other than failing to appear in court.
But I made those are arguments for the warrant, not necessarily for the bond. Just that we're at calendar call, obviously. I don't have any legal arguments to make regarding the warrant, but I don't think the warrant, unless he has a lengthy criminal history or a history of failure to appear, he was excused, obviously, to appear during the Zoom period of time during COVID, and he did it back to the first level.
All right, based on all of that, the court will set a monetary bond. It will be double the present amount, $30,000 cash assured.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other counsel that, let me ask the Creole interpreter, sir, anything else you thought you had here today?
I have another one, Your Honor, that I had the name already of the document.
I think we've addressed that, have we not?
Yes, we did.
All right. Just wanted to free you up to be anywhere else. Mr. Triana, greetings to our Spanish interpreter. Does anyone have a case that needs the Spanish interpreter? Anyone, Mr. Triana, were you here for a specific case? Okay. All right. I don't believe there's any counsel indicating that they have a need for any interpreter service this morning. So if you need to be elsewhere, Mr. Carr, did you have any other cases? I know Mr. Russo said. Oh, just wait for the paperwork. Okay, very good. All right. Any other requests from counsel before I go in order? Anyone follow me? All right. And Mr. I'm sorry, last name. Mr. Roth, sorry. Is that Mr. Pica's request?
Yes, he said he was going to call for Jay Day.
All right. So then You want to take care of this, obviously, while you're here in town.
Yes, and I think he's already made plans to come down.
Okay. So we'll move Ms. Dundas's case to 1:30 at the request of both sides? Very good. So let me make a note of that. Ms. Dundas, am I pronouncing that correctly, Councilman Ross?
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, she's out of custody.
Yes, he's right there in the hallway.
All right, we'll see you at 1:30.
Should I leave it still on for the 28th?
I assume, well, yeah, Mr. Pika agreed to that. No, we're gonna just leave things as they are right now and then readdress it at 1:30. All right, then back to the normal order. James Bars, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 689.
Morning again, Judge. I'm still anticipating this will be a plea. I did try to contact him the other day, was unable to get a hold of him. I left a message at the number. It's still an active number. I'm going to ask that we leave this set on the docket for a plea resolution on that Monday of the trial cycle. At this point, if I can't get a hold of Mr. Bars and he fails to appear at this point after being noticed, then I would sure the state would be asking for a bench warrant at that point.
Ms. Wilson?
That's correct, Your Honor. However, I just wanted to remind the court, this is the one where we have an ex-law enforcement officer who is our arresting officer and the only witness I believe I need in the case. He is in a police academy for Oregon, and so therefore he's not available until after September. But I am concerned the fact that Mr. Nagel has not been able to contact his defendant, so I would ask that we let it remain set so we can get him in.
All right, I do recall the state had described specific circumstances affecting the attendance of this critical witness. So at this point, I will grant the state's request to call this case on the 28th. At that point, we'll address the status. The defendant's appearance is required. Otherwise, I will consider issuance of a warrant. However, the case will not proceed to jury trial for the reasons previously discussed at a prior court date. If it is not going to be a plea, it will be reset based on the state unique witness situation.
I understand, Judge, and that's fine by the defense.
Okay. Next is, we already addressed David Billy. And I believe we left that currently set for trial. We've also addressed Mr. Coleman. James Curry, 20 CF 462, Mr. Verderamo, Ms. Wilson. That's correct. The next one appears to be 20 CF 1172.
Judge, on Mr. Curry's case, I know the state has issues, witness issues. I believe they're requesting to move forward on 1172. Negotiations have not exhausted. We have received an amended plea offer on Friday and had a chance to reach an agreement.
We would address it on the 28th. Okay, plea on the morning of the 28th. But at this point, Ms. Wilson, I'm leaving both matters set for trial. However, with the understanding that it will be case 1172 at your request that would be tried if there's no agreement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So ordered. And any plea would be taken on the 28th from Ms. Fuentes. That's June 28 at 9 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Anything else on that matter? Very well. Next, Anil Dustin, 18 CF 1028, as well as.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And Ms. Paramis, is that who I'm speaking with?
Yes, Your Honor, I apologize. I'm actually in a different courtroom on my phone, so I had to turn that off.
Also 18 CF 1030, currently set for trial. There was Mr. Ashby is here in the courtroom covering for Mr. Frazier. There was a remaining motion regarding records from the Naples Police Department. The court has reviewed that. I had previously issued an order denying the defense motion for production of the same records from the state attorney's office. This is on separate grounds, public records primarily from the Naples Police Department. I have considered that. I'm just informing the parties orally here that that motion will also be denied. There will be this week a written order to memorialize that. I do find that the exemption asserted by the Naples Police Department should be upheld. Written order to follow. I believe Ms. Carter said that there might be an additional pretrial motion filed if that were the result of the court's ruling.
That's correct, Your Honor. We will need some time to prepare a motion to strike the CI from trial, Your Honor. The CI is the only eyewitness to the allegation. So we would need a couple of weeks to prepare that.
Well, I would intend to address that prior to the start of the trial. And we can also address it on the 28th, the morning of the 28th, or prior to the start of trial. So I would ask that you file that motion, and if we're able to address it on the 28th, I would address it there. If not, I would set a different date for it. But I would address it prior to the start of trial. I'm not inclined to remove this from the trial cycle for that reason. Any comments from the state?
No objection, Your Honor. We would like to hold a second week of Your Honor's trial cycle.
The length of which case would the state be proceeding on? I assume it's the 1028 case first.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the length of that trial anticipated, Mr. Ashby?
Your Honor, it will be filed.
So it could be completed within 4 days, Ms. Carmes?
I believe that has been the previous estimates, Your Honor. And of course, our motion will be filed before then. It's just a matter of when we have that written order.
Any objection to going the second week of the cycle as opposed to the first?
No, I believe we had specifically requested it. The state attorney and Ms. Puglisi had previously discussed the scheduling, and we were looking at that second.
Then Ms. Winters will call the case on the 28th, and with the understanding counsel can appear remotely for that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Destin does not have to appear for that since we're not starting till the following week.
Understood.
All right, any other clarifications?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's see, next, Mr. Pizzazz, let me go ahead and address you. You've been waiting quite a while in the courtroom.
Yeah, one client, his last name is Fuller. He has cases on the docket.
Okay. Mr. Fuller. One moment. As luck would have it, you're actually the next one up anyway, so I didn't do you any special favors. I tried, but it didn't matter. All right, so this is 20 CF 975 as well as 996. Defense status?
Judge, we have the state has scheduled a deposition in a month on the case that's they're probably going to go forward on first, which is the failure to register case. So at this point, they filed a motion to continue. Given all the circumstances that this is one of the more recent cases, I don't have any objection to that. I would just ask if we can put this on closer to August.
Now, this is two cases, and one is a failure to register. The other one is a more serious sexual battery allegation. Ms. Brown for the state. Ms. Brown, this was set, I believe, by Mr. Maresca. Let me see. It looks like back in April. And the state at that time requested a continuance to depose the defense witness.
Yeah.
That was granted, but the case was set for this trial cycle.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why does the state need additional time?
Your Honor, after reviewing the file subsequent to pretrial conference, Mr. Maresca set the deposition of the defense witness, I believe, May 10th. The witness was subpoenaed. The subpoena was served upon a relative at his residence, and the witness did not appear for the deposition. I did not realize that that had occurred until I reviewed the file subsequent to pretrial conference. As a result, we did reach out to Mr. Bazaz. I filed the motion to continue both cases, and I have reset the deposition to subpoena the witness again. I believe I attached to my motion, Your Honor, as Exhibit A, the served subpoena, indicating that we in fact had him served and he did not appear for his deposition. The state would like to proceed first on 2996 CF, which is the failure to register. Mr. Fuller is charged with 2 counts of failure to register for a maximum possible penalty of 10 years in prison on that case. In 2975 CF, he's charged with attempted sexual battery, which is also a 3rd-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. So the maximum sentence in 2996 CF is greater and does not involve placing a civilian victim on the stand. So the state's preference is to proceed on that case first, and that is the case in which the witness did not appear for the deposition. As Mr. Bazaz indicated, I consulted him prior to filing the motion, and he indicated he did not oppose it. His preference was these cases were immediately set for the August trial cycle. Upon reviewing my witnesses, they are available for Your Honor's 2nd week of the August cycle, which would be August 9th. And that would be the state's request that they be set there as well, subject to the defense witness appearing for his deposition this time.
How many days for trial?
Your Honor, I would say the failure to register will take us 3 days, and this attempted sexual battery would likely be 3 as well.
Defense does not oppose the request?
No, Judge, what was I'm sorry, if we do what was the trial cycle?
Ms. Fuentes, what would be the August trial cycle?
August 2nd through August 6th.
I believe we actually have 2 weeks, Ms. Fuentes. My understanding is we'll be using both weeks moving forward.
I would think so, because everything's now reopened, so we're back to the older schedule.
Yes, Your Honor, and our office has been subpoenaing people for both weeks of Your Honor's original trial cycle in hopes that we would have both.
That was the original setting, is that correct, Ms. Fuentes?
That I don't have that, Your Honor, but I don't know. I can double check right now.
Let me double check with Melissa to make sure that nothing changed.
Thank you.
Is the defense available either week?
Judge, I'm going to be out of state. I'm sorry.
For both weeks?
Yes, please. Okay.
That's my name, Papa.
Hello, Melissa. Since we're now reinstituting the pre-pandemic schedule, for example, the question arose in August. There were originally 2 weeks in a row. Are those now to be used as per trial weeks?
Yes.
Okay, so nothing changed in that regard. Where we look on the calendar and there would have been 2 weeks of trial or complex weeks, we're using those. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
All right. First of all, I find the state has moved in advance with good cause for a continuance. That is granted. Then the question just becomes where we put the case. Mr. Bazaz has a conflict in August, so we will look beyond August. Is time of the essence for the state?
Your Honor, it is not, but obviously we'd like to have the matter set, and I know that Mr. Bazaz's client is in custody, and Mr. Bazaz has expressed that he would like the matter set. The state's witnesses are available for Your Honor's September, October, and November cycle.
So, Ms. Fuentes, based on the population of cases, what would you recommend?
October, Your Honor.
Any objection to October?
No, I am.
So ordered. What are the dates, please?
Pre-trial September 21st at 10:30. Calendar call October 5th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle October 11th at 9 a.m.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Repeat the pre-trial date, please.
September 21st at 10:30.
All right. Yes. We've now elapsed the 1 hour mark. I'm just going to take a 5-minute recess. But before I do that, is there any counsel that requests to be heard before the recess? All right. Thank you for your patience. 5 minutes, and we'll resume again.
All right. Court is in recess. 5 minutes. Sir, hanging out. Okay. I think I can get one through.
One.
Marjorie, okay. All right. Does he got a client?
No, she was down.
Okay, all right. He'll tap on the window, no one then. But he doesn't have it, but he's not got anybody with him, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Woo. How was the weekend?
No.
18 years.
Okay, so did you see that case that I did? And did you see how the?
No, the children are good. Too much crud.
Retirement of our birth.
Take care of crud.
Yeah.
Everybody will be sick with one population. The good thing is, home and daycare, herd immunity, and they can eat dirt.
Yeah, but when you get into the habit of it being
I
it's just like,
my big boy did not laugh.
oh my God. All right, man. I'll be fine.
Shut up.
Oh, me?
Uh-huh.
No, I forgot to get my print and pushing judgment didn't print out and I had to call upstairs to even do it. And I'm like, out of all cases, it's my car case and they just sit there. And they go over everything. This is a busy trial cycle week. Oh, geez. Everybody's announcing ready.
And it's time for everybody to get ready. Mr. Ash, before we'll take the mask off.
But this our last week with this.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
You don't want to mess with the comfort.
Yeah. You gotta get it.
It's like,
that whole meeting.
it's like, when you find a comfortable spot, like laying down or sitting on the couch, but it's starting to get warm, but you're still pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
But I like to try to find a cool spot.
What happened to your buddies? They left you?
Oh, well, yeah. I, Figured everything's gonna be over Zoom now. We're not gonna have anybody, so Sergeant, Munoz.
What is that guy that was here? Who was that new guy?
Sergeant Munoz. Sergeant John Munoz. He's one of our sergeants.
It's not Juan?
Nope, it's John.
Is it M-U-N-I-Z?
Uh-huh.
That's not Munez.
Munoz.
Oh, okay.
Munoz. M-U.
Yeah.
He doesn't work the courtrooms too much. With Brian being on vacation for the next couple, he'll be back.
Brian is on vacation.
Brian's always on vacation. But Brian's on vacation, he don't want to see it. I wish I could learn to relax like him.
Brian is committed to retire.
Brian is technically already retired. He's in the drop. Brian has been officially retired for 25 years.
Oh, young. He must have started when he was very young.
Yeah, he's 53.
Wow.
How old do you think I am?
No, I don't know. You're 52.
53.
And Brian the same thing?
I started when I was 22.
Wow.
I just turned 22. All right. So record is back in a second.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready to resume. Mr. Schneider, you look like you've been hanging around for a while, and I feel bad about making you wait, so let me go ahead and call you. We just need you on mute, please.
Good morning, Judge. Sorry about that.
Please.
I am here on State of Florida versus John Hiding, Judge. It's 20 CF 42.
And once again, as luck would have it, just like with Mr. Bazaz, you were actually the next one up, so I didn't do it right again.
Perfect. Judge, I feel fairly confident that this is going to result in a plea at this point. We just need to have. I think Ms. Brown needs to speak to her victim in the case, and then we need to just finalize. I think we've agreed pretty much to what the jail time amount is, and we're just arguing over probation and a few terms at this point.
Well, we have a couple weeks until the 28th, so at this point, I would leave it set and have you pleaded on the 28th.
That'd be great.
Any thoughts, Ms. Brown?
Your Honor, I don't have an objection to leaving this on the 28th with all other cases. I'll make this request on this case and any others of mine set for first week. If for some reason the homicide does not go, because that will be my primary focus, I would just ask to begin witnesses on any other cases of mine on Wednesday, so I have a little bit of time. But I have no objection. I will speak with the victim based on Mr. Schneider's comments, and I'll get back with him so we can see if we can't resolve this one.
Very good. It is set and then remain for the 28th at 9 a.m., right, Ms. Fuentes?
Correct.
Very good. Any others, Mr. Schneider?
No, Judge. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nagel, Ms. Brown, Leroy Hernandez, 18 CF 1358, as well as 18 CF 1588.
Yes, Judge. The second case would be the one that would go to trial initially, with my belief, based on that. We just need to leave it set like it is. We're still working on negotiations, but we would have the motion issued addressed on that Monday, like we talked about at the pretrial conference. Other than that, nothing has changed since last week.
All right, Ms. Brown?
Your Honor, I don't have an objection to leaving this case as set. I did have a chance to review the motions. I do anticipate I'd likely want to call witnesses. And again, because the homicide will be my primary focus, if for some reason this case is going and Your Honor wants to hear the motion to suppress, I would ask that we do that Wednesday morning. Otherwise, I will be prepared, Your Honor, to pick a jury on Monday so that the court does not waste a panel of individuals. But we can leave this case as set. The state does anticipate going on 18-1588 CF first at this point because it is significantly more serious charges.
So that is the priority case, all right? So it remains then, Ms. Fuentes?
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Mr. Ashley, how many cases do you have left?
I'll talk to one. April, NCO.
All right, let's go ahead and address that. Maybe we can get you on your way then. Venancio? Let me, Mr. Ward is connected remotely, and you are announcing the case numbers, Mr. Ashton?
19 1092 and 19
All right, go ahead, Mr. Ward.
Judge, this case, I'm anticipating my client will be coming to accept the agreed plea offer on June 28th. My understanding is the state can't proceed to trial this cycle based on witness unavailability. So we'd be just setting a new trial cycle from there.
Have we addressed that previously, Mr. Ashby, that witness situation?
Yes, Your Honor. What? That was that was
So was this supposed to be a plea date today, Mr. Ward?
On the 28th, Your Honor.
On the 28th. Okay. How did it get moved? Well, this is just the previously scheduled calendar call.
Yes, sir.
Now, what was the state's reason for witness unavailability as of last time?
Yes, Your Honor. Reasons we were unavailable. This was one of those cases where our system only got 4 months. We said it for this trial cycle, unknowing that they often already put it in.
And they had already put it in, and they are out of, well, are they local or are they out of county?
They are going to be out of my standard, yes.
And this is a critical witness for one of the cases?
Yes, sir.
And which case does it affect?
That would be the recollection, sir, if the 1090.
Now, what about the other case? Is that affected?
Yes, I'm the same officer in both cases. The state detention that would have been trial together as similar to the same circumstances that state department.
All right, and this was brought, I think, to the court's attention last time. All right, so the state, now, this situation, which has been repeated a little bit, is something that should be cured at this point, once we get to this round of cases.
Yes, we realize the situation
But again, the individual did put in the leave prior. All right. So a good cause has been stated. It will be called on the 28th for plea purposes and rescheduling only. Any comments, Mr. Ward?
No, Your Honor.
Defense does not oppose that?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. Ms. Fuentes, it will be the 28th at 9 a.m. for those purposes?
Correct.
All right. All done, Mr. Ashby? All right. Let's see, that brings us to wherever we left off. Let's see.
Lorenzo Francisco.
Okay, Officer Harrison thinks it was Lorenzo. All right, so that's after Lorenzo. We already addressed Mr. Hippolyte. We addressed Mr. Jean. I think Officer Harrison correctly observes that next up is Mario Lorenzo Francisco, 18 CF 14, Mr. Nagel, and Ms. Brown.
Yes, Judge. We had left this case on for today from the pretrial conference based on issues with state witnesses in the case. I did, in the last week, I did contact Ms. Mendez, the Canjobal interpreter, to discuss the potential of that November 1st trial date, which we had talked about at the pretrial. She indicated she was available at that point. I'm waiting for the court to officially make that announcement as that case being on that date to put in the request to the court interpreter's office. But Ms. Mendez is available that day.
Okay, this is a case that's had numerous calendar calls, defendants in custody, has a significant interpreter issue that has been very difficult to deal with. And is the state announcing ready in November? Then I would assign this a number one priority, Ms. Fuentes, for that date.
Yes, Your Honor, I have confirmed that all of our witnesses are available for the November 1. That is your complex cycle, Your Honor. That is still my request based on the need for the Kanjabal interpreter and the other witness issues. I think this will allow us to take priority and have this case tried.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
How many days for trial estimated?
Probably 4 to 5. The interpreter issue is going to be a little bit tricky. She's the only interpreter, so we'll probably have to take a few more breaks. She will be needed for a state witness as well to do some translation for, as well as the defendant during the case, as she is the only Kanjabal interpreter, I believe, available in this part of the country. So we'll have to work around that a little bit. There is video or audio recordings that are going to be put, going to be brought into evidence. So that's why I would think it's 4 to 5 days. But I don't believe it would take more than 5 days.
So the state agrees with that description?
I do.
And have we confirmed that the interpreter would be available for that week?
I did, Judge. As I said, I spoke with her last week directly. I went around the court interpreter's office and contacted her. She had checked her calendar when we were speaking about that date, and she said that she was clear. At that point, it would just wait for the retention by the court interpreter's office.
Yeah, the good news is that my experience with Ms. Mendez has been very positive. She's very competent and very efficient.
Yes, Judge. I was able to use her the other day last week when I spoke with my client in custody, and she was there on time. She's been on time for everything we have needed her for. As I said, I don't think we could have done much better for a Kanjabal interpreter than her.
Fuentes will rank this as the number one priority. I think it's a wise observation by the state to put it on that complex week where it doesn't have to compete with other homicides and other assortment of people in custody that are very serious. So we can rank this as the priority number one for that particular week. And we have 5 days available there, is that correct?
Correct.
So that seems like the pick. So ordered, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're gonna change the dates now. So do we want to have an additional pretrial and calendar call assigned to that?
I think that would be helpful, Your Honor. Yes, please.
We have.
I agree.
Flex cycle, pretrial, and calendar call dates. And I'll cancel all others.
Okay.
So just waiting on this one.
Pre-trial, September 21st at 9 a.m. Calendar call, October 26th at 8:30. Trial cycle, November 1st at 9 a.m.
Now, did I hear 8:30 start?
For complex calendar call, yes.
Okay, that's unusual. Have we moved to 8:30 starts?
We always did. We just haven't set any trials on the complex trial week, so we haven't had any.
It's at 8:30. Repeat the pre-trial date.
Pre-trial, September 21st at 9 a.m.
Next is Ruben Martinez, 20 CF 1183. Once again, Mr. Nagel and Ms. Brown.
Sorry, I was on mute again. I started talking and didn't realize that nobody could hear me. I believe we can leave this set, Judge. We will be discussing the matter in the next week or so to see if we can get to a resolution. I think there is a resolution that can be gotten. Ms. Brown and I just need to sit down and talk a little bit about the matter.
State update.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. I would agree. I think we can also leave this as set. My request will be the same. If it does go to trial, that we begin with witnesses on Wednesday so that I can have Tuesday to shift my focus.
And Ms. Fuentes will need to note that were requested by the state. Length of trial still at 3 days maximum?
Yes.
Yes.
Very well.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Moving ahead, we call the number of them Derek Ulmer, 20 CF 889, Mr. Verderamo, Ms. Mason.
Judge, Mr. Ulmer is going to accept the state's offer. We can resolve it on the 28th.
Any comments, Ms. Mason? I think you may be muted or low volume there, Ms. Mason. Just low volume, it looks like.
Okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the state has no comment, Your Honor. We're fine setting it for the 28th for a plea.
If for whatever reason it does not resolve at that time, it would proceed to trial based on the priority with other cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Yormis, Perez, Gonzalez, Mr. Barger, Ms. Brown, 20 CF 305.
Yes, Your Honor, Justin Barger on behalf of Yormis Perez Gonzalez. It's my understanding, Your Honor, that the state has filed a motion to continue this. We have no objection to that motion.
Ms. Brown, highlights from the motion.
Your Honor, the state filed a motion to continue. Upon reviewing the file, the state does believe it is appropriate in this case to be filing the notice of intent to introduce child hearsay. However, the video, Your Honor, is in Spanish. It's exclusively in Spanish. So before I can file the notice of intent and have the child hearsay heard, I need to have the video translated and then transcribed. I filed that motion contemporaneously with the motion to continue so that process can begin. But based upon the facts, Your Honor, I do believe that child hearsay is essential to this case. And based upon that, there is not sufficient time to translate, transcribe, and have child hearsay heard before Your Honor's June trial cycle, and therefore I'm requesting a continuance.
Now, Ms. Brown, I realize you weren't part of the case, but the notes reflect that in October 8th of 2020, the question was raised and the answer was provided that the state would be filing child hearsay motions.
Would or would not?
Would.
Oh, okay. I don't believe one has been filed yet.
I'm not blaming, obviously, present counsel. Mr. Barger, there's no objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
It is substantial to the case. The state has filed a motion and has newly taken over the case. Motion is granted. The question then becomes, where should this be placed for a new trial cycle?
Your Honor, I would request October or November in an abundance of caution to simply provide enough time to both have the video translated and transcribed and then the child hearsay motion heard.
Any witness issues or other concerns for either side?
No, Your Honor. We would ask for the October date.
The defense is requesting the earlier date, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And length of trial anticipated?
I would say 3 days, 3 to 4 days.
I would agree with that, Your Honor.
No witness availability problems for October, Ms. Brown?
No, Your Honor, none.
Granted for October, all dates, please.
Pre-trial September 21st at 9 a.m. Calendar call October 5th at 9 a.m. Trial cycle October 11th at 9 a.m.
Miguel Perez Labrada, 20 CF 700. Mr. Verderamo, Ms. Wilson.
Judge, we'll keep this as previously set. I'm inclined to say that my client will accept the offer. We'll keep it set for the 28th.
Ms. Wilson.
Your Honor, is my understanding that he was actually going to be a plea on June 28th. Is that correct? Because that was relayed to me. I'm just double checking on that.
The charge.
And,
Yep, you don't need witnesses, but we work on a couple issues.
okay. All right. That's fine, Your Honor. We can leave it on June 28th. We're available the first week of this upcoming trial cycle only.
And Ms. Prentice, please note that. So it remains as set. Date, please.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Ricardo Rodriguez, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 741.
And Your Honor, that's set for plea on the 28th as well.
All right. And if not resolved on that date, if both sides are announcing ready.
Yes,
For the first week only, Your Honor.
It's noted. And date and time.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Already called Jonathan Rogers, Kenneth Tanksley, 20 CF 225, Mr. Barger, Mr. Ashby.
Your Honor, in this case, we had at pretrial conference set it to today for the entry of a plea, and then we were going to go ahead and continue to do sentencing on the 27th of July. However, in talking with Mr. Tanksley, there was some confusion about the dates. He had made a flight to Fort Myers for this Friday. However, looking at your calendar and everything that's happened, obviously it's not going on Friday. So
colloquy on the 28th.
Yes, Your Honor, that's what we would be asking for.
Mr. Ashby.
No objection, Your Honor.
So the matter will remain as set, but is there going to be a deferred imposition of sentence?
There is, Your Honor, yes.
State is aware?
Yes, Your Honor.
So as long as we do the plea colloquy then on the 28th, there will be no need for trial, and we'll certainly grant you deferred imposition of sentence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have the parties agreed on when that deferred date should be in terms of what month?
We have, Your Honor, it's July 27th. We already have it scheduled.
Okay, great. So we'll see Mr. Tanksley June 28 at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We already called Pedro Venancio. Robert Washington, 20 CF 961, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Mason.
Your Honor, we can leave that as remain as set.
Length of trial not to exceed 3 days remains.
Correct, Your Honor.
State comments.
And no comments, Your Honor. We're ready for trial.
Remains Ms. Fuentes.
June 28th at 9 a.m.
Jabri Williams, 19 CF 1524, Mr. Nagel, Ms. Mason.
Yes, Judge, we can leave that set as scheduled.
Ms. Mason?
Your Honor, the state also agrees. We would need to go week 1.
With what?
We would need to go during the first week.
Please make a note, Ms. Fuentes, and trial not to exceed 4 days.
I wouldn't think it could exceed 4 days. Yes, Judge, I think 4 is the maximum.
Correct, Your Honor.
And that leaves Jordani Zaldivar, Mr. Khalil, Ms. Wilson, 20 CF 864.
Your Honor, we can leave that as set as well.
I agree, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Fuentes?
June 28th at 9 a.m.
And this was estimated to be a 2 to 3 day trial, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, at most.
Last but not least, and possibly will be first, Mr. Zutton, 18 CF 798, Ms. Boyson for the defense, Ms. Brown / Ms. Cunningham for the state. Well, here we are. It looks like we're heading to trial on the 28th. Is that still the plan?
Yes, Your Honor, we are ready. He is still in custody, so we would ask to be first up.
And what's the state update?
Yes, Your Honor, we are also ready to begin on the 28th. We would make the same request. As I'm sure the court is aware, we have over 50 witnesses under subpoena and on hold. So we would ask that this be the priority trial and that the court proceed on this trial first, because there are a lot of moving pieces that we will begin to set in motion once it is confirmed that we're going. Does Your Honor anticipate preparing a trial order so we can know, or will this be the priority trial, Your Honor?
At this point, I believe this will be based on everything mentioned in all the other cases. This would be the case ranked as number 1 in order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Well, and the estimated trial length on this maximum, both sides, please.
I believe that it was 7 days, Ms. Cunningham indicated, and that has not changed from the state's perspective.
What would be the maximum the defense would view? You may
I
need
think
to
you're muted.
Ms. Boyson. Or it's just a volume issue, one of the two. Silence. No? Yeah, we were hearing you before.
Yeah.
No connection. Oh, we have to cancel the trial.
No. Please
There we go.
don't.
That got her to speak up. Now, you just came in for just a moment and then still can't hear you now. So she's going to try to reconnect, it looks like.
Your Honor, while we're waiting for her to reconnect and we have defense and other state counsel, I know Your Honor had indicated backup judges. Do you know when we might know if there'll be backup judges? We're trying to allocate personnel accordingly. We recently lost a prosecutor on the Foster docket and we're trying to move some people around.
How soon is desired in the ideal world? Next week?
As soon as possible. Judge Foster has an overlapping trial cycle with Your Honor, and Ms. Cunningham's intention is to take your prosecutors to his docket if they're not otherwise in trial. Obviously, these cases will take priority, but as soon as the court knows, we would appreciate the heads up so we can plan.
I'm going to renew my outreach immediately today and ask for a response within 24 hours.
That would be perfect. I appreciate that very much.
One way or the other. So, Ms. Fuentes, would you convey that to Melissa, please? All right, Ms. Boyson, are you audible at this point?
I'm hoping.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Right.
So, maximum length of trial that you would anticipate?
Was 8 days. And that's just if something drags out that we're not expecting.
So we're thinking with jury selection as well as deliberation that it could be completed in 8 days maximum.
Yes.
Maybe less.
Maybe less. I would say 7's probably accurate, but just planning for something we can't plan for, I would say 8 max.
In Ms. Fuentes, we have how many actual days available?
That's what I'm looking at right now. Eight.
So we have 8 available. And I'm just
Right.
looking at those weeks. I believe, Ms. Fuentes, is the 29th when I long ago looks like, yeah, it's the 29th, isn't it, that I volunteered to help out with drug court that day?
It is, Your Honor. And then we have July 5th is the holiday.
Right, but even factoring those 2 days out, we still have 8 actual trial days, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that seems to fit the bill, counsel, even if we have to skip a day there with the drug court in between?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, obviously, the priority on the 28th would be to try to select a jury in one day if possible. It certainly could spill over to Wednesday, but I would be willing to stay late if necessary to make every effort.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many jurors do you recommend should be called?
That is a good question, and I cannot remember what Ms. Cunningham said last time, but my gut would be 60 or
Yeah.
70.
I can tell you she asked for somewhere in the 50. I would agree more with 70 just to be on the safe side. Since we
are 50.
And in the courtroom itself, we can comfortably seat 30 now that we're post-pandemic. We can add a rule, and also Harrison is listening here. We can add a rule in the front that would be make it 40. Now, I'm assuming we would be trying the case in courtroom 2B, or is that to be determined? I think.
As far as I know, we're back in.
Right. Let me just ask Melissa on that. Does the courtroom matter to either side?
No, Your Honor.
Judge Manalich.
Hello, Melissa. We're planning for the case that's going to be ranked number 1, which is the Sutton homicide trial. And starting on June 28th as the number 1 priority ranked case. It's estimated, and Manalich has confirmed, we have 8 actual trial days, even though we have the 4th of July weekend, a day lost there, and even though we have drug court, a day lost there. We still have the needed number of days. We're going to be calling for a greater number of jurors to be called in. We were thinking, given the length of the trial, if you can convey to the jury clerk that we're likely to need for our courtroom availability of 70 jurors, ideally at least 60. And we're thinking that we'll bring in 40 courtroom. Do you know if we are likely to be set in courtroom 2B? Is that where we'll probably be as opposed to 2A, like some of the trials were being done?
My understanding is that we would be in 2B, but I don't know for sure.
I think the parties are okay though. I mean, Officer Harrison, I think we can put our front row of seats there in front of the rail. And
That's what I was just looking at. I think we could put 2 rows of 10 here.
Oh, 2 rows, okay.
Yeah. Well, we could put, we put 10 in the jury box, 2 rows of 10. That way we get 40. We could move the tables over just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That way the potential jurors wouldn't be able to see.
So does that seem to be what counsel would have in mind, that we'd ask the jury clerk to have available up to 70? And
I would agree. And I think that in the past, Your Honor, we've put jurors into the audience as well. And so we could certainly figure that out. But if we want to start with 40 in the box and then have an additional 20 to 30 upstairs as needed, I think that would be wise.
Okay. Now, is there any special planning, Madam Clerk? Do you need to go anywhere?
No.
Okay. Just stretching, standing? Okay, very good. Because I did have the bathroom break earlier. I didn't know if you needed one. I was going to say, is there any special schedule that we need to plan based on witnesses or other issues in terms of our schedule?
Not that I'm aware of at this point, Your Honor, and given Your Honor's calendar call date and the understanding we're going to be the priority trial, we have ample time to plan. And should there be some sort of special need, we'll be sure to reach out to Your Honor's chambers.
And everyone's okay with those days that we have to skip, including the first Tuesday of the first week and the first Monday of the second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. If for some reason counsel seemed to think it would be maximum 8, could be 7. But if for some reason, always have to plan for the unforeseen. If it were to exceed 8, then we would be into the following week, the 12th, where it's I'm sure heavily populated there, Melissa. The further complication is I am covering domestic violence hearings for Judge Cohen that afternoon. I see on there.
Mm-hmm.
But as we go through the trial, if that becomes a realistic possibility, then I would have to plan as to whether the trial would have to finish on either the 13th is also a heavily populated docket, but we'd plan for that if necessary to try to get coverage on either of those days. But it's highly unlikely, is that right?
That's the state's position. And obviously, Your Honor, as we're going along, if things are going slower than expected, we can have some earlier mornings or later nights to at least accomplish attorney and court business so that we finish on time.
Any clerk or bailiff issues that we need to plan for in terms of evidence handling, any courtroom setup issues, witness management, anything that is of note? Nothing unusual? Okay. Any update on plea negotiations?
We've never received a plea offer, Your Honor.
It's all, and at this point, it appears unlikely.
Correct.
Yes.
Anything else of concern to the parties?
Not at this time.
And Mr. Zutton has a wardrobe available, Ms. Boyson.
Yes, I will figure that out with the jail because I know they have changed their way of doing things since the last time I had a trial with it in custody.
Officer Harrison, who should she reach out to make that go smoothly?
The jail.
Any particular contact?
Not that I'm aware of. I will get with Sergeant Capo and find out.
All right. Would you be able to let Ms. Boyson know if there's a specific contact person there for that?
I know she needs to get it there, I would say at least 72 hours prior to.
So just for you to be aware of, Ms. Boyson, the request from the jail, I think, is at least 72 hours before. Given the length of the trial, I assume it may be multiple items of clothing.
That was a question, if I can bring multiple outfits at the same time, or if they require one outfit at a time.
I would have to check into that too. I probably wouldn't push more than maybe 2 outfits trying to get in there at one time.
That's where I think if she had a particular contact person, that would make things go more
The best
slowly.
person, Sergeant Capo would probably be the best person for her to reach out to if she could.
Is her number known in the system, or how can she find out how to reach her?
Sergeant Capo is holding cells. Does she have the holding cells email address, Ms. Boyson?
Is that publicly available?
It should be for the attorneys.
So, Ms. Boyson, if you can't reach Sergeant Capo, you can contact my office, and I think we have a contact number for that.
I don't have.
Yeah. So we don't want to publish anything that's not publicly
Right.
distributed. So you can contact my office. It looks like in order to make things go smoothly the first day. Now, the only other thing affecting the first day, which will be dedicated, I think, only to jury selection, will be that we are having other cases come in for pleas. But I would think we could get those done within the first hour and then still proceed to jury selection with the jury right after that.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anything else that would have, in advance, as far as advanced planning, would be helpful for either side?
Not at this time.
Okay. Ms. Boyson, I think if you haven't heard already, I agreed to have your motion to withdraw added to Mr. Pinglass's court date coming up. I believe it's Wednesday.
Correct.
So you're going to appear remotely for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can address that motion then when he is scheduled to appear.
Great, thank you.
Anything else on Sutton? Ms. Fuentes, anything? All right, very well. And I think that's it. That's the end of the calendar call. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.